Blue skies cool. They seduce us, pulling us irresistibly upwards, reminding us to fly our own line, on our wings, and in life. We are the seekers, adventurers, being one with the air, feeling everything and nothing at once. That's the magic we chase. Follow the call. Find your pure, wild flight with NZ Aerosports.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go. Back in the can for another edition of Lunatic Fringe Into the Void. And I know this face, but now, especially now, you're usually hiding it behind a helmet, so everybody else might not know. Tell me, who the fuck are you and what do you do?
Matt fucking Jaskol.
Matt fucking Jaskol.
Las Vegas, Nevada. Most of my life has been spent as a professional race car driver, racing instructor, and also skydiver.
Nice. So you go fast regardless.
Yeah.
That's fucking
go fast,
awesome.
Take chances. Yeah.
Dude, it's really good to see you again. I know that we had the opportunity to do this once before, but that was pre-COVID. That was pre all kinds of shit that you've had happen. So
yeah.
First, we're going to get you to jump back to the beginning and fill in the people that didn't hear the first interview. And then we're going to find out what's going on now. So tell me, how did you get started in anything extreme, but obviously in skydiving and then into racing?
Cool. So you know what? And I'll ask you to help me a little bit. I wish I would have had time. I wanted to go back and listen to our first interview just to see like where we left it off. I know we got into a lot of deep stuff about my life, but so yeah, to jump into catching people up who maybe didn't see it or did see it a little bit. The first interview we did. So I started out, I'm 37 years old now, and I started racing motocross at the age of 5. And what was crazy was like people always, when people ask, how'd you get into racing? Well, it's been my entire life. And and the first question usually is, was your dad racing cars? So my dad was a boat racer.
Okay.
And so going back into the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, he was a boat racer, which was super dangerous. And the saying in boat racing was either you died or you were going to die. Like that was in that era. He was racing in an era of just where it was sketch, man. It was out, he was racing offshore, outboard, 80, 90 mile an hour boats. And, it was just super dangerous.
Some crazy shit.
Yeah. And it was cool. Some of the names, like some people probably know these names, obviously. He was racing against Vic Edelbrock of Edelbrock Carburetors and the Herbst family, which is a big family in Las Vegas. They own all the gas stations and stuff like that. And so he was racing against some big name people, and he didn't come from money. He actually, like, his parents didn't support the racing, and his father had passed away when he was a young man, a kid, basically. I never met my grandfather on my dad's side. And so he did it all on his own. And he was just a hardworking man on his hands and knees, fucking installing hardwood floors and carpenter. And he, paid for his boat racing.
Sure.
And so the funny saying I love to tell people, because we were just a motorhead family. We weren't a traditional family. We were out at the dunes, and we had a cabin in the wintertime. We'd snowmobile. We weren't rich. My dad was just a hardworking dude. My mom was actually a stay-at-home mom, did a little bit of real estate, but so we lived outside our means, high-class white trash family.
Sure.
As I like to say.
Well, it's kind of funny though, that coincides so well with probably a fair number of the people that are listening to this podcast living well outside their means, spending $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 on a rig and every fucking nickel to go jump out of airplanes. And most of those people will never see that money again. So same thing, right?
And I think, I think as a family, I think that's kind of what we were doing. It just wasn't skydiving. We were doing motorsports. That's what we were doing. And so the saying goes, though, before I was born, my dad crashed a boat. He sank it, and he survived. And he was a fast driver. He was winning races and shit. And he got offered one of those high-speed F1 boat rides, like a test ride. Yeah. So he did a test, and he was good, and he had an opportunity to go race. And I guess my mother, before I was born, came into the garage and said, "It's either me or the boat. Which one's it going to be?" And that's, my mom says that the conversation went differently. My dad said that's exactly how it goes. and I was born shortly after, because my dad made clearly the wrong decision. So so we got into so I had an older brother, and so my brother started racing a little bit first, but he went down a different path, which is a whole nother story. He was was in and out of trouble a lot in his life and stuff, and I started racing motocross at 5. I was that's where I met like Travis Pastrana and stuff like that. I go back all the way to the 90s with him as a friend, and I was okay. I was a decent rider, I was quick, but I wasn't as quick as like the Carmichaels and the Pastrana. Like I'd watch these guys send it on 80-foot triples at 12 years old, and I was like, fuck that. I'm not. And I watched my cousin femur and right in front of me once, compound fracture was as I'm 10, dude, in this. I'm like
early to learn that lesson,
bro. Traumatizing. And I was just like I was scared. I was a mindful young man. I wasn't like, let's just send it. I just wasn't that kind of kid.
Sure.
And so I got hurt in motocross at like 10 or 11. I had a really bad concussion, like super bad. And then my mom still supported me to race, but she was like, I don't love the motocross thing. So can we do something different? And I got into go-karts. I got into 4 wheels. And then the rest is history, Sure. So then the long journey that we talked about, like, coming up through go-karts and then turning professional and getting the Red Bull deal, the F1 development program, and all through there. Yeah. And please go ahead. Along. Yeah. Skydiving came along only about, it's a long journey now, a little over 7 years ago now. And I started skydiving 2014 because I wasn't racing. And that's the whole, that was the long story that we talked about of why and how. And I started skydiving, as a lot of people probably do, and people can relate, is that I was looking to fill a void in my life. Sure. I wasn't fully happy, and I just needed something to pursue. I was trying to get my pilot's license and I couldn't afford it. I was flying quite a bit here in Vegas, and I just couldn't really afford it. And then I found skydiving through one of my best friends of skydiving, who I met in racing. He was working at the racing school that I trained him basically, and he guided me into skydiving a little bit, and I fell in love, and the rest is history for that person.
I mean, it seems to be, and I'm sure we talked about this the first time around, the mentality that goes into either community kind of blends very well together. I mean, it's especially with something like racing, it's competitive, but there's still a lot of people that are helping along the way. And of course, racing is not a one-man sport. It's a team effort.
Right.
So it takes a lot of like-minded people to be able to do something like that. Same with skydiving to some degree, for sure.
Yeah. And, cool little side story. And I think I might've insulted, 1 or 2 people, but this is cool. I mean, it's crazy to even think people wouldn't even believe it unless they were there. So I was at the Indy 500 last May, and I was spotting for Marco Andretti, who's a longtime friend. We raced together and stuff. And so spotting is where you're up in the tower. It's mandatory. Every driver has to have a spotter. At the Indy 500, there's 2 spotters because the track is so big. And so you have a spotter over in turn 1 watching half the track, and I'm over in turn 3 watching half the track. And I talk to Marco during the whole race, tell him who's, if there's a crash in front of him, who's on the outside, inside, and they're doing 230 miles an hour. It gets pretty intense. And we're sitting in the hospitality tent, and this was during the weekend. It was, probably days before the race. And I was catching up with Marco's sister, and Mario's in there all the time, and Michael, is part of the team. But it was just me and a couple other people on the team, and there was like one of Marco's like good friends. They have a podcast together, and I started explaining how skydiving was a much better family community than racing, and racing was kind of fucking cutthroat and shitty. And he was like, oh, so you're saying we're all a bunch of assholes? And I was like, that's not what I'm saying, but kind of, yes. Where I always noticed the difference in skydiving, sure, it is a competitive, there is a professional side to the sport. It just wasn't where in racing, it's like, yeah, there is a great family community, but there's also, it's only if you're in the clique of the cool people, or you're in that high level. And then otherwise you kind of aren't in the group if you're struggling to get in, like I have for a lot of years. And
sure,
it just has a different vibe where people are trying to take your job, and there's only so many seats available. And it's, fuck, man, somebody gets injured or killed. It is true, man. It's like, oh, that's sad. Hey, so who's going to take his seat now?
There's a pragmatism to racing that, all right, he's still dead.
It's a different world, man. And so like, I'm not taking away from the people that do have that close family knit, but I've seen it from both sides. I've seen it from the inside, the outside, and it is a different world. There's a lot of money involved, and it's a big business. But
Now,
skydiving gave me that more of that family love feel that I never felt in racing.
Fair enough. Well, and again, I've talked about it on every damn podcast. That's what tends to keep skydivers in skydiving, even if they don't jump much, is that community. Now, I wanted to ask you real quick because of something that you just said. You said you were spotting for Andretti. And of course, for a skydiver, spotting is a whole different thing. But and most people have probably seen this fucking movie, and it is the Top Gun version of NASCAR. What the fuck? The Tom Cruise movie,
Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder. So what you're saying is that when what's his name was talking to Cole, sending him through the smoke, that was actually a guy up in a tower, not the guy standing down in the pits.
No, it was the guy in the pits. But so back when Days of Thunder happened, I think they had spotters back then, because there's actually the very opening scene of the movie is the Daytona 500 at the biggest track in the world next to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and that you see the guys up on the tower with their headsets, and those are the spotters. Right. In the movie, it's dramatized, and the crew chief, Harry Hogg, is talking to, not like I could tell you, I could recite the entire movie for you. And I think a lot of skydivers are Days of Thunder fans, but so Harry Hogg is talking to him on the radio from the pit lane, but usually that wouldn't be the case. But I mean, in NASCAR, the crew chief's talking to me a lot of times. They're just not telling you what to do on the track necessarily.
Fair enough. Well, a little Hollywood to bending it around a little bit. I just wondered if they were full of shit.
Dude, I hate when people talk shit about Days of Thunder, because it is pretty fucking damn close, man. Like it's like there's a lot of shit that's actually pretty legit. Other than some of the crashes and stuff, it's like, yeah, man, that's pretty damn real.
Well, I mean, you can talk a lot of shit about a lot of the Hollywood movies, but they get the point across, right? I mean, Top Gun. I go back and watch Top Gun, and it's one of the campiest movies ever, but it was a fucking great film. Same with Days of Thunder. It was a great film. The storyline's a little campy, but it's still a good movie, man.
It is sadly, because nobody's ever done a good enough job since then. There's been some like docudramas, on some like IndyCar guys, but Days of Thunder, and other drivers agree with me, I believe, is still a very relevant movie when you watch it today, because nobody's done one good enough since.
Well, and I know you'll know this, and the name is escaping me, the Shake and Bake one, the comedy.
Talladega Nights.
Fucking love that movie. And again, I'm not a NASCAR guy. I've never really followed the sport. I've never really followed motorsports all that much until probably the last 5 or 6 years. But that fucking movie was so funny. And it seemed to, because I know that there were a lot of drivers that were in that movie. So clearly they had a great sense of humor and were able to make fun of themselves.
I hated the movie the first time I ever saw it. And let me tell you this, like, because I think I was bitter because I wasn't racing. I wasn't there. So when I first watched Talladega Nights, I was like, this is so dumb. And then I watched it again with some friends, and I don't really drink or party, but I don't do drugs really, and especially with motorsports, and I don't do drugs at all. But I had a few drinks with some friends, and they wanted to. I think it was like a holiday. We were staying in, and I watched it, and I was like, all right, it's pretty funny. And now that I've been lucky enough to be back in motorsports racing NASCAR, I go back, I'm like, all right, it's really fucking funny, actually.
Yeah.
And I mean, on the, we'll get into it, but I had a crash in NASCAR last year where I was like, I'm in the air, it's not good. I'm flying through the air, it's not good.
Right. Well, at least you didn't strip down naked and
I wasn't on fire.
Scream you were on fire the entire time. Now,
Tom Cruise.
Now, before we spend too much time on a skydiving podcast not talking about skydiving, we are going to talk about it just a little bit. You got to do one of the coolest fucking jumps ever as a low time skydiver, really. In the big scheme of things, 7 years is a good chunk of time in jumping, but it's not a huge.
Only 2,000 jumps, which isn't.
I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a good chunk of jumps, but to be able to do what you did in the venue you did for that occasion, please tell me all about it.
All right. So last year I got to race NASCAR. I was racing the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
Cheers for that, by the way. Fucking congratulations. Talking to a NASCAR driver here, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. It was wild, man.
Keep going.
So for those who don't know, there's only 3 professional tiers of NASCAR. There's the Truck Series that everybody knows about. There's the Xfinity Series, which was famously known as the Busch Series. So when everybody remembers Winston Cup, man. So, I mean, even people who aren't racing fans, that was the good old era of NASCAR, the Winston Cup. Winston was the title sponsor. So the title sponsor changes throughout the decades, right? So it's not called the Winston Cup anymore. So they have the Cup Series, It used to be called the Busch Series. Now it's the Xfinity Series, and then the Truck Series. And so I was racing in Xfinity, and I was racing against, Kyle Busch on most weekends, and, all the big name guys, so while I was racing, I got into the car, and I got called to do NASCAR after a few races had already started in the season. I got into it in April. My first race was in Martinsville, Virginia. And so, to make a very long story long, as the season was going on, and I was on a part-time calendar, part-time schedule, limited budget. I locked in to do the Vegas race, and my sponsor wasn't even committed for me to do Vegas. And I was like, we're fucking doing it no matter what it takes. Even if I have to put the money together myself, we're doing my hometown race.
Yeah.
And I never got to race in front of my hometown crowd at a professional race. I never got to race on the oval at Vegas. It's a 1.5 mile oval. And so I was like, man, this will be my chance. And with motorsports, the way the world is, this could be my only opportunity ever to race in front of my family, in front of my hometown crowd in a professional NASCAR race. So where I started is there's so many different entities you'd have to speak to. And luckily I have a lot of friends at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The president of public relations is a longtime friend of 20 years. The president of marketing is a friend of mine. And so I went to them months before the race, and I went, hey, what would you guys say if I wanted to skydive into my race? And I mean, immediately thinking they were going to be like, Jaskol, sorry, man, that can't happen.
Right.
I thought it would get shut down relatively quickly. But the president of public relations, who's a friend and a fan, he's believed in me, he's helped me throughout the years. He looked at me, and he goes, his name's Jeff Motley, and he goes, you could do that? And I went, well, I mean, if you guys help me out and, let me get the permission to do it, hell yeah, I could do it. He was like,
if you let me.
He was like, really? Like, when would you jump in? I was like, I don't know. Like, I would want to jump in during driver intros. Like, he was like, you mean like 20 minutes before the race? I was like, exactly. And he goes, would you be in your driving suit? I go, well, I'd have to be, because I'd go straight to the car after the jump. He goes, you could do that? I was like, actually, man, I jump naked. I jump in clothes. It doesn't matter. I'll do whatever. I said, jumping in a driving suit is actually very similar to a racing suit, is it similar to a skydive suit? So he was like, I love it. I think it would be a great idea. And we're all kind of laughing, like, no way. They're saying yes.
Sure.
He's like, well, you got to get the permission. How do you want to start pursuing this? So people would never even understood. Even I didn't understand how complicated it would be, right? So at a race, every race has a title sponsor, right? The Pepsi 500, the Elsco this or whatever. So the race I was going to be running it's a 300-mile race, and it was the Elsco, which is a big uniform company, right? Uniform supplier. It was the Elsco 300. When you're a title sponsor of a NASCAR race, it's about, I don't know, $250,000 to $500,000 to be the title sponsor of one race. You own the race. You own the keys to the kingdom. If you want people skydiving in, if you don't, you want flyover, whatever you want, you get. So if this title sponsor didn't want some random driver jumping into the race, then they could say, no, we don't want that.
Sure.
So luckily, like a PR guy of mine knew somebody at Elsco, coincidentally, of course, and they go to them, hey, this Matt Jaskol, he wants to skydive in. They're like, oh, we love it. That'd be great. And so now the Las Vegas Motor Speedway is on board. The title sponsor's on board. So now we got to go to I go to Jim Dolan, who you love, my boy.
Jimmy.
Yeah. So I go to Jim Dolan, who's a longtime skydiver, for the people that don't know,
Flying
Elvi, SNTA. I mean, the guy,
yes.
He's a legend in the sport, done a lot of cool shit. And so he is actually the go-to guy for doing like demo jumps,
Yes.
Not just the safety aspect, but fuck all the paperwork that has to get filed. So I go to Jim and I go, dude, I think I'm going to skydive into my race. And he was like, no shit, let's do this. So the paperwork was insane. He had to file stuff with the TSA because it's over a great, crowd.
Yeah.
The FAA. We have the Nellis Air Force Base right next to the
right
track.
there.
So we had to go to Nellis Air Force Base. I mean, there was so much paperwork for him to do. So now Jim's filling out the paperwork. Everything's looking good. We got the title sponsor. We got the racetrack. Now we're having a trouble with the bird, because the Las Vegas Motor Speedway has an exclusivity with a helicopter company. That helicopter company did a tandem operation with Jim and Eddie Carroll from Vegas Extreme, and it went bad, and the fucking helicopter overspun the rotors, $25,000 in damage. So now we're like, all right, so there's all this shit going on. We go to the helicopter company, to Maverick, and they say no, fuck that. And the owner is like, no, don't want to do it. And I had a friend. So I have a friend who's the president of marketing there. I used to work at a driving school with the guy.
Right.
And so the chief pilot knows Jimmy, and they all get together in a meeting. They go, hey, I know Jaskol. He's a good dude. This will be a smart operation. Jim. And so the chief pilot was like, hey man, this would be super cool and easy. We should do it. Sure. And the owner was I think the owner's like an ex-Vietnam vet or something. And he was just, kind of hardcore. And I guess he looked at the chief pilot and goes, all right, well, if you're willing to fly it and you can do it, then fucking do it. I don't want to hear about it. And so we're like, shit, we got the bird, we got the track, we got the paperwork. Now there's one little entity that has to say yes. And that's, what are they called? NASCAR. We got to get NASCAR to say yes to some no-name NASCAR driver that they don't fucking know. That's, I have a name in the sport. I've been racing a long time, but NASCAR doesn't give a shit who I am.
Well, now, but as a quick side note, how far in advance of the race is this all happening?
We started the process about 3 months before.
So you at least gave yourself a little time to work with.
We didn't ask NASCAR until 30 days before.
All right.
So
one way to do it.
So the president of public relations looks at me and goes, all right, Matt, it looks like you've ticked off all the boxes. Now, this is a side note about politics and drama and bullshit. Now, guess who was one of the only entities that said no to it and kind of pissed me off because I had to convince him, was my sponsor.
Really?
The sponsor was the only guy that was like, I don't know, Maddie, maybe we shouldn't do this, something self-serving. Let's wait until next year when you're full-time and blah, blah, blah. I was like, next year, motherfucker? There is no next year. I could be dead next year. I'm not waiting until this is an opportunity to take now that, this helps get my name out there. And even if nothing else, man, at least I can say I skydived into my own NASCAR race. It's never been done in history.
Yeah, man.
No professional driver's ever skydived into his own race and got in a car. Never in the history of NASCAR. It's so hard to be the first to do anything these days. And so I had to get him on board. He was just kind of like, he's kind of a quirky.
Me. Yeah, that really confuses me because, isn't it, first off, it's no press is bad press or all that bullshit, but you're literally talking about the entire time your canopy is in the air and you're flying, the spotlight is focused on his fucking brand.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. Maybe he was worried I was going to bounce or something. I don't know.
Well,
there's no publicity like bad publicity. That's what Mick Jagger said, right?
Yeah.
No, dude, he's just quirky in his own right. He's a little bit eccentric, and just had his own, I don't know. He's
sponsoring a NASCAR team. You got to be a little bit eccentric, right?
Right. And he spent a lot of money for me to go race last year, and I only did 7 races. And so he was just, I don't know. I guess he just wasn't sure how it was going to play out and this and that. And I think what he was thinking also, he's got an ego in a good way, right? He's just like seeing the big picture. And I think he was thinking, let's wait until we're on the main stage racing the Cup Series and blah, blah, blah. And I told him, dude, there's no time like now. If I don't do it, some other driver is going to pull it off or something. Brian Vickers was a famous NASCAR driver at the time. He raced for Red Bull and he was a skydiver. He never skydived into a race. He skydived into a racetrack once, when it was empty, nobody was there. There was no race going on. So I was like, Chris, it's just, I said, we got to do it now, man.
Sure.
And so he got on board. And then so the president of public relations goes, all right, Matt, you got everything. Do you want me to go to NASCAR or do you want to do it? I said, no, you go to NASCAR for me. It'll be better that way, I think.
Right.
You tee it off. But I did tell him this. I go, listen, explain to NASCAR that this is not some Travis Pastrana stunt, that sadly I am more current in skydiving than I am racing a NASCAR. Like this will be far more routine part of my day. Now to back up just a little bit, because it's important for people to know. So racing in NASCAR is intense. It's the track at Vegas is 185 miles an hour. And and 40 cars on track. And let me just put this little caveat. No practice, no qualifying, straight to the fucking green flag because
Really?
they were doing COVID calendar that started in 2020. They took it into 2021. It's a little bit of money, a little bit of politics, and because it's you're less time at the track.
Sure.
They cut out qualifying and practice for a lot of the NASCAR races.
How did they get their lineup?
By points.
All right.
It went by, and I'm not a team owner points, not driver points. So the car number is what owned the points. So, and my team was a low budget team, a part-time team. So we were usually 40, 38, 37th, 40th. Sure. So I try to explain to people, I'm like, listen, man, this would be the equivalent of like, a lot of skydivers, a lot of guys like the movie Independence Day, right? Remember the pilot that was like a, washed up like crop duster from Vietnam? And
I can fly a plane. I'm a pilot.
Yeah, I can fly. I'm a pilot. I mean, like, that's me. Like, it's like, yeah, I used to race cars full time, but I had never raced NASCAR. I've never been on these big ovals in a long time. I did some open wheel stuff, and this, but I did some low level NASCAR racing. We would call it like the amateur semi-pro NASCAR ranks. Sure. Like I'd raced Saturday nights on short tracks for a number of years, but never in the big show on the big tracks, Sure. And so to just jump right in would be the same as taking a pilot who used to fly some acrobatic stuff and maybe flew some old, and hey man, we're going to put you in an F-18 and you're going to no practice and you got to go straight to the show. You'd be like, what? So that, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, I had, very well-known famous racing driver names that people probably know coming up to me going, you're going straight. You're getting in the car, no practice. Yep. And they were like, you've never been here? You've never been in this car? Nope. And they were like, that's crazy. And I'm like, well, what options do I have, man?
Yeah.
And so the real, we can joke about it and be like, yeah, man, I was just jumping in it. I was fucking terrified at some of these races, man. I mean, I was not happy to be going to Darlington. Darlington is one of the most famous tracks in NASCAR history. It's where Cole Trickle got his first win in Days of Thunder. Yeah. And it's a sketchy, scary track, and it's fast. And I had to go straight to Darlington, no practice, never turned a lap on the place, and straight to 170 mile an hour in turn 3. Almost laughing like, oh my God, like this is insane, Now,
I got to ask, you said that, so the car goes off of the points that the team, that the sponsor has. So is there a little relief in going for a part-time team that's got you so far in the back? Because if I read everything correctly, it's your ground to gain, right? Yeah. I mean, if you're in the back of the pack, there's nowhere to go but up in the stats.
Oh, 100%. Any driver will be like, oh, well, it was a little bit less pressure to start 40th, to start last at some of these races. So let me tell you this. So I got to go to Mid-Ohio, which is a famous road racing track, right? Like IndyCar races there. A lot of famous races have happened, and it's been around since the 60s or something. Really cool road track and road racing track. And so NASCAR does, quite a few road races. It's not just ovals. They race on quite a few road courses. And so I got to go to Mid-Ohio, and everybody was expecting me to do well because I'm the road racing guy. I come from that background, not just the roundy round circle track stuff.
Right.
And so our points that weekend allowed us to be like 37th of 40. Even though I'm a road racing guy, it's a 3,000 pound, 700 horsepower stock car that doesn't stop very well, but still goes like $170 down the straightaway,
Right.
And it's it's 4-speed. It's old school, man. It's you don't have to clutch. You just lift and shift, and you can left foot brake and just blip the throttle to downshift. But it's it's a technique. You got to be good and precise at it. And it's a very fast race car. And the team owner, just like, this is Days of Thunder, man. The team owner from the pit, as like we're on the track getting ready to race, the team owner is this good old boy, from the East Coast, really amazing guy. He's actually pretty famous in the NASCAR world. His name's Carl Long, and he gets on the radio like, "Hey, buddy, you think maybe we could just fall back and do you mind just starting last? Just till you get a feel for it, for the gears and the braking a little bit." And I'm like, yeah, copy that, bro. I was going to start so before talking to the team, I was going to fall back to 40th and give up the 37th starting position, give up the few starting positions to get a feel for the car for the first lap. Because I don't even know how this fucking thing brakes going into turn 1 at like 160 miles an hour yet. I don't know how much, there's no ABS, you don't know how much brake, if you lock it up, you can destroy the tire and you'd have to pit. So I'm like, fuck, I better figure this out. So I was already going to fall back, but he's like, hey buddy, you mind just falling back for a couple laps till you get a feel for the gearbox and the brakes? I'm like, yeah, I'm already on it, dude. Got you. Copy that. No problem.
You have to love that mentality though, right? Especially coming from the owner. He's got you in the seat going, yeah, I'm not sure if this guy knows how to drive this car or not, but so I'm just going to suggest he take it easy for the first few laps.
And there's so much to it, just like skydiving. Racing is such a fucking intricate, complicated sport. So the team owner owns the cars. He owns the entry. He owns the number. My sponsor is the one that's essentially paying for me to be in the car as a driver. Right. Now the team knows I'm a good driver. They know my background, so they give the sponsor a good deal on the car, but it still costs money to go racing.
Sure.
But here's a really amazing thing. In racing, usually the sponsor or the driver that's paying to be in a race car has to cover crash damage. That crash damage can be anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000 if you have a bad crash.
Shit, yeah.
This team doesn't charge crash damage, but they hope that you bring it home in one piece, So that's part of, so they're trusting and the stress that I had, and you'll love this. I mean, it was legit like this. I was genuinely like shitting myself in races. I mean, my stomach was upside down at some of these races. The stress of like, here's my shot. You got to pull it off. Don't die. Be safe. But everybody's, so as much as you just said like, oh, you got everything to gain. It's like, here was what my sponsor and the team owner would even, and this is legit. They'd be like, hey man, just go out there and have a good time, but don't fuck this up, okay? But no, man, there's no pressure. There's no pressure. Just have fun. But we need you to fucking finish in the top 20. Otherwise, we're not going to get enough money for the next race. But just chill, bro. It's fine. Like that was literally my life every race. Like, no, man, there's no pressure. Don't fuck this up.
The idea that a driver can potentially be on the hook for repairs to the fucking car, that's insane.
Man. That's racing, bro. Yeah.
That's fucking mental.
So people don't think like, people think, oh, the driver's not responsible. Well, yeah, he is and he isn't. Sometimes drivers are paying to be in a seat. They're bringing the money to the table. And if they don't work out a crash, so it might cost it costs $1 million to race the NASCAR Truck Series with this team, but that's not including crash damage. You're gonna crash. You're racing 25 races a year.
Sure.
You are gonna do some Ricky Bobby shit in that 25 races, and it's gonna be expensive. So if you don't have the crash damage, contract sorted out with the team, you could be looking at $250,000 in crash damage for a full season. I know a driver last year in the Truck Series that had $2 million in crash damage almost because he fucking rode off. He was a fast driver. He wins races. But he also had some major crashes, rode off a couple trucks, and that truck might be $200,000 to build back to original condition, or fully rebuild one altogether. It's a weird sport, man. It's a very, and the thing is, if there's 40 cars in the field, every single driver, even if they're on the same team, has a different program.
Sure.
Some drivers are fully sponsored. Some drivers are hired guns. Some drivers are paying to be there. There's a lot of nepotism in the sport of NASCAR, as you might in the world racing. in the sport of anything, but especially in racing, it's pretty deep, right?
Yeah.
So I was racing against Jeffrey Earnhardt. That's one of Dale Earnhardt's nephews.
Yeah.
I was racing against Riley Herbst. If you know Herbst, that's the biggest gas stations, casinos in Las Vegas.
Yep.
I was racing that son. The Burton family, Jeff and Ward Burton, very famous NASCAR drivers. I was racing against both of their fucking kids. Dude, Austin Cindric, he's a good driver. Have you ever heard of Penske Motorsports? Yeah, they're only the biggest name in motorsports history.
Yeah.
His father is the president of Penske Motors of the team. I was racing against his kid. You're racing against some great, and that's what's tough these days is these drivers aren't slow and they have huge dollars behind them, big teams, family money. It's a tough deal, man.
I mean, there's no fucking wonder that you would jump out of airplanes to calm down.
Yeah, that's truly, it sounds cliche, but when people, it's like, yeah, it really is how I slow down
Oh yeah.
Or how I just got to go jump in Mesquite here in Nevada at the Blue Skies Boogie and Memorial Boogie.
Nice.
And it was the most relaxed I've been in 6 months, probably.
Isn't that funny? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
When the only thing that's on your on the line is whether or not you fuck up the dive and your life.
Yeah.
And it's more fucking relaxing.
Yeah. So, and that's a perfect segue back into the skydive, right?
Yes.
Going to NASCAR and telling them, listen, this is the most routine part of my day. You know what's funny is there was a lot of haters after I skydived. Even a well-known guy, Josh Hall, I think his name is, who's like a regional director. He was like, Jaskol's he's not. Yes, I am. Like, so, I mean, I don't post a lot about it, but man, I rigorously went through my pro rating, very legit, like every jump, freaking filmed. And, I did everything for my pro rating up in Mesquite with some great instructors and DZOs. And I got my pro rating years ago, and I've used my pro rating. I've done a flying Elvi jump into a very difficult location. I've done I did a couple charity jumps. So I've done some demo work. I have my TI rating, even though I don't do a lot of tandems. So I am a professional skydiver, but I'm just not maybe doing demos every week or something like that. So people questioned if I was even legal to do it. And Jim backed me up like, yeah, he's got his shit more square than a lot of you assholes out there doing demo jumps,
People just, man, especially I suppose in environments like that, they're so fucking pissed off when the spotlight shined on anybody else, even for a moment. And I don't understand that. I mean, especially coming from skydiving, as long as I've been in it, people relish other people's successes in this sport in a way that you don't see in most other sports. Like, I've never seen a competition in any other sport like swoop challenges and stuff where the guys on the ground that are battling it out for first, second, and third are right there cheering on the guys that are competing against them. I mean, that's some amazing stuff. And I applaud the spotlight going on anyone that brings a positive attention to skydiving. So I don't understand how, if it's bringing attention to the sport, it's bringing attention to your sponsor and doing nothing but positive things, why people get pissed off. But man, some people are just so fucking ticked that it's not about them.
Right. Or that somebody did something first or whatever, so, and in the defense of some of these people that questioned it, maybe they truly were like, protecting the sport. Cause we've seen a lot of stupid shit happen in a short amount of time. I don't want to call anybody out, but like, let's say the kid that did the tandem on that, on like, what was it, The Bachelor or whatever, and so there's been some bad spotlights in skydiving, even in the last like 18 months. So in defense, I'll play devil's advocate here, maybe just making sure everything's legit. I'm not doing something stupid, but that was the point. So I went to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and I said, listen, what NASCAR is letting me do, getting behind the wheel, is stupid. Like no practice, no qualifying, very little seat time. It's only my second mile-and-a-half oval. And so NASCAR does have a progression. I had to do a half mile first because it's slower. Right. Then I went to a mile. I did a couple mile tracks. Then I did Texas, 1.5 miles. I wasn't allowed to go right to Talladega. I wasn't allowed to go right to Daytona. So now here I am at Vegas, my second 1.5 miles. So I say, listen, when you go to NASCAR, tell them, I am a professional, licensed, rated skydiver for exactly this. Right. Also, skydiving is not new in NASCAR. It just remind them that demo jumps with flags and everything happen every weekend. All the time. It's just never been done by a driver. And I was like, this isn't a Pastrana stunt, something crazy. No offense to Travis, but this isn't some stupid silly. But this isn't some stupid silly stunt. This will actually be truly more routine than driving the race car. And he was funny because he goes, shit, that's funny and true. He goes, I'll put that in the email. So he puts it in the email. He sends it off to NASCAR, and we're all, for 2 weeks, we don't hear back. And now we're just a couple weeks from the race. And I got to I got to nail this down. And we did do something pretty cool. We didn't want it just to be self-serving. I wanted it to be people from the outside, even some skydivers might not have understood. It wasn't just to say, look, I skydived into the race. I teared up. It was an emotional thing. Sure. The guy that taught me how to skydive, Jace Ramsey, who I obviously love. I mean, the guy is, I look to him as the legend. I mean, he taught me how to skydive, one of the coolest guys I've ever met. I asked him to be part of the ground crew.
Nice.
Another skydiver who was an amazing human being. He supported me. I worked with him, doing outside video and tandems at Go Jump. Knew him. I met him when I first started skydiving. He fucking died base jumping last year, 1 week before my NASCAR race, and was supposed to be ground crew at the race, man. And he died on a base jump with Jace, the guy who taught me how to jump.
Yeah.
They went to jump together in Northern Nevada just 1 week before my race, and he went in. And so I asked Jace to take his place, which was really tough for Jace and was emotional. I mean, it was only 1 week after one of his dear friends just went in front of him. So there was a lot that people still, like, from the outside might not ever know. And I started skydiving because I was depressed that I wasn't racing anymore.
Sure.
And skydiving helped, change my life and save my life in some ways. And now here I never fucking gave up. That's still the thing I like to try to tell. I never gave up.
Sure.
Never turned my back on racing. It just wasn't there for me. And I needed to support my family. And, we talked about that in the previous podcast, family health setbacks and things like that. And so I not to sound dramatic, I always said, like, I didn't give up on racing. It kind of gave up on me, like it's a tough sport. Nobody gives a shit unless you got money sometimes. And
sure.
And so life came full circle. The guy that sponsored me, which maybe we'll talk about a little bit, I've known him for 20 years. I met him when I was only 15 years old. So more than 20 years, when I was racing go-karts here in Vegas. And he called me out of the blue and said, Jaskol, I've always believed in you. Fucking love what you do, man. And I want to put you in a NASCAR because I have the money now and I want to be a sponsor in NASCAR. Let's go racing. It's the phone call that never comes. I mean, you could do a movie just about that. It never happens. And it did. And it happened for me, but because I never fucking gave up.
Sure.
Yes, I went on a different path skydiving, but I stayed active. I was always still working in the sport. I was actively coaching, working at the Indy 500,
Sure.
racing once or twice a year to try to stay relevant. I still was chasing the dream. It just wasn't as realistic without a lot of money, without budget.
Sure.
And so it all came together. So that was the point of the skydive, man. It really was.
Well,
it was to bring those two worlds together in a way that's never been done, in a way that maybe I'll never get to do again. Right.
Sure.
So that was the motivation behind it.
And to be perfectly honest, to be as, not like I'm ever blunt.
Not you. No.
To be a little bit blunt, for anybody that doesn't understand your motivation for wanting to do it, fuck them. Seriously, because
yeah, I know.
Above and beyond everything else, skydiving is whatever each individual that brings themselves into the sport needs it to be, right? Skydiving it's a very personal thing, the reasons that we jump. Just like racing is something that you have a passion for. You had the opportunity to mix those two things, and for whatever reasons, these were amazing and very personal reasons that you wanted to melt the two. It also shined a spotlight on you and your sponsor, and it's fucking cool. I don't care what anybody says.
It is fun. It was cool.
Most of the shit that I've done for skydiving, it's because it's fucking cool. It's cool. It's fun. And every once in a while, it's pretty neat to be able to go, oh, you guys got to check out what I just did. You had the opportunity to skydive into a NASCAR race. So if somebody doesn't get that, fuck them.
Fuck them. And so this little side notes, which is amazing. And I would get emotional thinking about it, talking about it. So one of the motivations for me was the people that have helped my life and have supported me, as you know, they're family, they're best friends, and they love me no matter what. And even when I wasn't racing, they're like, dude, we love your skydiving. They're just like, Jaskol, we just love what you do, man.
Sure.
And I almost feel guilty that I didn't make it to, like all these people that supported me in racing. I didn't fucking make it like we all expected. And here was my chance. And they fucking still supported me when I wasn't racing to go skydiving, like they loved following my journeys, even though it wasn't something noble. It wasn't making a living at it per se. I'm just traveling the world skydiving and sharing some, some cool stuff and trying to inspire some people along the way and sharing deep stories about my life. And so to me, I was like, man, I get to skydive into my NASCAR race. I made it to NASCAR, and this is for my fucking uncles, my cousins, my family, the people that devoted their time and money and effort. My mother, my father, they were at the race like, hey, we fucking did it.
Yeah.
Like, look, I mean, I cried because I was like, oh my God, 30 years. And here's another reason I wanted to skydive in. And this isn't being negative. This is just being real. I'm running in a car like to give you an idea of disparity in equipment for anybody listening about like racing. I'm racing against teams and drivers that have $150,000 per race budget. Okay. So I can go race with one of these teams. They'll be like, Jaskol, we'd love to have you. 150 grand per race. And that's what it costs to race with some of the top level teams. My team, I'm just going to be honest, charges like $30,000 a race. The car's 10 years old. We're borrowing motors. They're a good team. But they're not. You're not going to win the race.
Sure.
So it's literally not it's a physical, literal impossibility unless everybody fucking crashes that I'm going to win the race in the car that I'm in. It's just not going to happen.
Sure.
So here I am. I'm racing NASCAR for the first time, maybe the last time in my life in front of my hometown crowd. I don't really have a shot to win the race whatsoever.
Right.
I'm going to fucking skydive into my race.
Yes,
that was kind of the motivation behind it.
And
too.
why not?
And we raised $10,000 for children's charity because I went to a fucking race. I went to my very first ever stock car sponsor who owns a car dealership here in Vegas. He put me in a stock car in 2005 when I lost my Red Bull ride. I won a championship with him. He's still a friend, 15 plus years later, and he's got a lot of money. And I went to him and kind of put him on the spot. I was like, hey, I'm skydiving into my race. It's costing me quite a bit of money out of my own pocket. The helicopter, the stunt, ground crew, all the stuff. And I don't want to just jump for nothing. I want to raise some money for charity. Will you step up? And he goes, and he literally fucking went, done, Jaskol. He
awesome.
Goes, I can't believe you're doing it. So he gave me a bunch of money to cover all the 20 grand to cover all the expenses. And we gave $10,000 to the Speedway Children's Charity. So it was,
that's epic.
That's epic. Yeah.
I mean, why not? And the whole thing from start to finish, how cool is that? And again, who cares that you're in a ride that's not going to win the race? You're in fucking NASCAR, for fuck's sake.
There.
And I'll tell you what, and the only reason that I know anything at all about motorsports is from our conversations and from the Netflix show about F1, which I'm guessing a whole lot of people that are listening to this, same thing. The only reason that I understand the different tiers of teams that are still all on the same track is because of that show. And so I get it.
Perfect. Yeah. So people even watching, Netflix, that's a perfect example. If you watch, Drive to Survive on Netflix, you'll understand despair. The Alfa Romeo is not going to fucking beat the Mercedes ever unless the Mercedes blows up,
Yes. And it's, it's kind of neat because that brought a sport like F1 that we talked about in our first podcast to a whole different audience, because I know jack shit about F1. Except for what I've seen in that show. And it actually, now I really, really enjoy it because I've seen it from a much different side. I'll still never go to the track. I'll still never go to see the race firsthand because that's just not my thing. But being able to watch it from that perspective is fucking epic. And the NASCAR side of things, for me, being able to watch the shit that you've been doing is ridiculously fucking entertaining because I'm like, I know that guy. I know he's racing NASCAR. This is so cool, and it's badass.
It was cool, man. I told some I probably spoke about it more than I should have, but thank God I pulled it off. But I remember going to a few of the cool kids in the skydive world who are friends, and I don't blame them either, because even for me, I was surprised. But I told some people like, I'm racing the Vegas NASCAR race, which honest to God wasn't even 100% because I did it. The sponsor didn't want to spend the money on the Vegas race because he'd already spent a lot of money.
Right.
And I was like, no, we're fucking doing Vegas, even if I got to come up with the sponsorship money. So I wasn't even confirmed to do Vegas, and here I am trying to book the skydive.
Right.
And then I was telling some people like, I'm racing in Vegas because you got to like try to at least get some people to know about it.
Sure.
And I remember telling some skydive friends like, hey, I think I'm gonna skydive into my own race. And not talking shit about them at all. I probably would react the same way, but some of them looked at me like, oh yeah, sure, Jaskol. We'll see, and even I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but it fucking did.
Well, it's funny. I just actually the previous guest, the Darman brothers that I had on, and that episode will be out by the time this one airs. We talked about the fact that they grew up on an airfield and were doing all the skydiving type stuff, but removed from their class. So, the kids that they were going to school with only heard the stories. They never got to see it firsthand, and that they would just assume that most of these kids thought they were completely full of shit.
Yeah.
Because and I've
wouldn't
gone through
believe it.
most of my entire adult life assuming that everyone outside of skydiving just thinks that I'm lying most of the time. It's got to be the same with you and driving and NASCAR and stuff, because people, uh, especially in something like skydiving, we love to talk, we love to tell stories, and I'm guilty of it as well. My jumps get a little bit more impressive and the numbers get a little bit bigger with every fucking conversation that I have about it. So people just assume there's probably some truth to this. I'm sure you get the same thing when it comes to driving.
Yeah, for sure.
You have
Absolutely.
to.
And honestly, there's times, man, where I don't even tell the story because I'm like, you wouldn't. I
They're
swear
not
to
gonna
God,
believe
dude,
it.
they're not gonna. I'm sure you have more than a few of those, but it's like I'm
Yep.
just like, if I told them the whole story, if I told you the entire story, you probably wouldn't even believe it anyways. Luckily,
Yep.
I have emails, and I'll finish that last. So we go to NASCAR. 2 weeks before the race, and we're waiting, and so the guy emails us and goes, "Okay, Matt, NASCAR came back with an answer," and we're all like huddled around the computer, and it says, NASCAR said Matt is okay, in capital letters, to dive into his race under one condition. And we're all like, that he has a backup driver in case he gets injured. And we're just like, what? They're like, man, NASCAR is savage, man. Listen, if Jaskol bounces, clean it up fast. The show's got to go on. Make sure there's a backup driver. The car's got to be in the race.
Nice. Actually, I give props to fucking NASCAR for that, because that's exactly what would have happened. Is they would have somebody just kick him off the track. We can deal with that shit later.
The rolling joke was, man, NASCAR is desperate for ratings when they're like, Jaskol, who the fuck is this guy? Oh, he raced a few races. He wants to skydive into it. Fuck it, let him jump. But
Nice.
tell him to land on the grass so he doesn't hit the asphalt in case he, and if he gets injured, we want the car in the race anyways. So
Just
that was
a backup.
The rolling joke was, Jaskol, who, fuck it, let him jump. Just have a backup driver.
Oh no, was Dolan your backup driver?
No, of course he wanted to be. I think he even mentioned it. But this is even funny too, man. So check this out. So one of the on payroll drivers for the team is a fucking really good driver named Steven Light. He was my spotter for most of the year because he doesn't have sponsorship to get in the car all year long. So the team has him on salary, and the team will put him in the car when they need a driver or a track that he's really good at or something like that. Otherwise, he serves as a driver coach or a spotter up in the tower to, he was like basically coaching me at some of these tracks I'd never seen before. And he was a fucking great spotter, kept me out of a few big crashes. The spotter is your eyes, for those that don't know, right? Not like spotting in an airplane. We do have spotters in skydiving. So this spotter, he's got binoculars or he's just watching, and he'll usually tell you, because you can't see, he'll say car outside, still there, you're clear, at your bumper, whatever. But he's also, we're doing 180 miles an hour. He's watching in front of me because I'm running 20th in the lead pack. There could be a crash, which there usually is at least once a race. And if a spotter doesn't say back it down, crash in turn 3, back, go low, go high, he'll tell you what to do. And if he doesn't, you might just get tangled up in it, just like Tom Cruise, just like that's legit. Like the smoke
cold
is there.
jiggle. So
in a real scenario, the crash happens and there's smoke, and the spotter will be like, back it down, go high, because the cars are coming down the hill. Like, he'll tell you where to go if you can't see.
Right.
And so Steven kept me out of a few big crashes. I mean, in Vegas, I got to finish all 300 miles, which was a big fucking deal. Skydived in, finished every lap of the race, finished higher than I started 40th, finished, I think 26th. Then we had some tire problems. We had a bad pit stop. So we had a good night, all in all, right?
Sure.
And so he kept me out of a big crash that happened right in front of me. I missed it by inches. And but he was my backup driver, and we joked. So he was up in the tower already ready to go. And we joked that when I landed, the crowd was like, yeah. And my spotter was like, fuck.
Oh,
damn it.
That doesn't surprise me. That's pretty fucking funny. Now, so you obviously probably the most memorable skydive you've ever had, being able to do something like that. And have you been able to do much jumping over COVID?
Yeah, man. So I got COVID January 2021 doing tandems. We were open. I was doing some tandems at Go Jump. And that's most likely how I got it. I got COVID exactly 12 months and a few days to the date. months ago. And so, yeah, dude, I did have to pull back on skydiving a lot because of NASCAR. I didn't want to get injured. You know, I was like, here's a sponsor spending a lot of money, autopartsforless.com. And he was spending a lot of money for me to be racing. So I didn't do any tandems. I didn't want to, I'm newer TI. I didn't want to take a chance, twisting an ankle or something. Sure. And I would do a few outside video jumps just to stay current, but I just wanted to take it easy, Sure. So I didn't jump a lot during the summer, and obviously get super hot in Vegas anyways. And then, I trained, I did some I wanted to practice, before the Vegas jump. I used a helicopter, did 5,000 foot. I used a Spectre 150. I fly a sub 100, but I'm rated for my pro rating under the 150. Sure. Glad I did it. The winds were super gnarly, came in kind of silent. There was like fucking crosswinds and shit like that. And so I nailed the landing, luckily, under my 150, because that's cool to share. People, skydivers probably want to know what I was jumping, maybe. Sure. So did 5K hop and pop, used the 150 and had a GoPro 360 for it and stuff. But so, yeah, I did get to jump a little bit. And then I didn't know if I'd be racing this year yet. And it still is a little bit up in the air. Again, it all comes down to money and sponsorship. Sure. My sponsor is a friend, but he's also a publicly traded company. He's trying to uplist to the NASDAQ here pretty soon, which is a big deal. And, he doesn't have millions of dollars of cash flow to go NASCAR racing, but it does look like I'll be doing some NASCAR truck races. The Daytona 500, the Super Bowl of motor racing events, is next. It's exactly 30 days from now. 32 to be precise, on the 20th of February. But so the truck race, so there's the NASCAR truck race on Friday night, the NASCAR Xfinity race, which is the series I was racing last year, which is on Saturday, and then the Daytona 500 on Sunday. Wow. And it does look like hopefully I'll do like an official announcement in the next few days or maybe a week or so. But I just got a phone call this morning. This is how dynamic this shit is in racing. It was last year in November, I'm going full-time NASCAR racing. Then the sponsor was like, fuck, man, I don't know if I have the money. Then it was like, okay, you're going to do Daytona, the first race of the year. Then I wasn't so sure. Then there was no teams available. Then there was a team of it. Dude, it's a roller coaster. I bet. Fucking of emotions, And so just this morning, ironically, coincidentally, my sponsor called me and said, okay, man, I struck a deal with the team owner. We're doing Daytona. Awesome. But I still don't say it's 100% until I'm fucking on a plane on my way to Daytona. Right. But it does look like I'll be at Daytona. That's a big deal. It'll be my first super speedway. So now that I did last year, the races I did and did well, NASCAR was happy with my performance. The biggest track I've ever raced on is a 1.5 mile, which is just still considered a speedway. Anything 2 miles and above is considered a super speedway. And there's not very many super speedways in America to begin with. There's Michigan, which is 2 miles, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 2.5 miles, Daytona, and Talladega. That's it. I'm pretty sure those are the only, and then Pocono, which they race sometimes. But there's only like a handful, 5 super speedways. And again, like NASCAR has that progression, no different than in skydiving. You can't go straight to this. You have to progress. So I did the 1.5 miles. NASCAR's like, okay, you're signed off. You can go do super speedways. So Daytona will be my first super speedway. There is practice and qualifying, which is a big deal. I don't just have to send it. But what's tough is, and this is another thing I need to, stay positive, but it's a qualify in. So only 40 trucks start the race. There's going to be probably 55 trucks trying to qualify for Daytona for the first race of the year. And again, it's a lower budget team, but they say they have solid equipment, but we don't know. We've never raced with this team. I don't know this. I don't know them. They say they have really good equipment. They bought trucks from Kyle Busch Motorsports. They have factory Toyota support. So we should have good equipment. Daytona, there's not so much driver ability as some people would understand. It's fucking wide open, flat out. If the truck, if the car, if the motor, the body, the body work, the aerodynamics, if that thing isn't set up right, it doesn't matter how good a driver you are. You're not going to get out of your own way. So as long as we have a good truck and I can get around the track flat out, then we should make the show. But so I should say I'm not racing, but I get to go qualify for the Daytona race.
Dude, that's fucking epic. That's epic.
Yeah, it is cool, man. To race the Daytona is a big deal, man.
Yeah, man. So now, as we get towards the end of the podcast, I want to know if somebody wants to watch this race, is there a way for them to follow it online?
Yeah. So luckily with NASCAR, all the races, Truck, Xfinity, and Cup are all live. and they're usually, it's either Fox Sports or NBC Sports, and they actually do both. So like half the season might be Fox Sports, half the season might be NBC. I'd have to look online. If you just look up the NASCAR Truck Series, it'll tell you what network has got it.
Awesome.
The NASCAR app, for people that are going to be traveling and you want to follow along and see if I'm racing, the NASCAR app is actually fucking badass. You can go on the app and click on me and listen to all the audio.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you can listen to us talking on the audio, and it's funny, man. There's a well-known spotter who spots for an Indy 500 champion, the kid that I taught how to drive, Alex Rossi. He was listening in on my race, and we had this ongoing joke is I do cuss a lot. It's just what we do. It's how I am, right? And I'm super calm and chill. I've been racing long enough that even when things aren't going well, I'm very calm. I'm very cool and collected. I'm very supportive of the team. If they make, if we have a bad pit stop, I'm not the driver. Yeah, God damn, I'm not freaking out. I'm like, it's all right, boys, we got this.
Right.
I like to consider myself a good driver in that aspect, right? And so on the radio, apparently, I'm like, yeah, fucking cars just fucking a little bit tight. I think I'm fucking up a little bit, but we'll get it, guys. If we on the next pit stop, if you just give me a little bit of more rear grip and fucking, we'll make this thing move forward. And he's like, and so we had this thing where he was like, motherfucker, you cuss a lot. So he'll text me and be like, what are you up to, motherfucker? What are you doing? You fucking get that car going.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I try and watch my fucking mouth as much as I possibly can.
You're so you're so composed.
I'm good at it, right? I'm good at it. It's straight from here to church every day. So, we can follow the race in that respect. First off, what's social media? So we know how to follow Matt Jaskol and find out what you're up to. If they want to come jumping with you, what drop zone are you jumping at right now? And how do we follow them?
Yeah. So obviously all the socials, and it's easy to follow. So Matt Jaskol across the board, Jaskol for those that don't know. So yeah, Instagram, and Facebook. I primarily use Facebook and Instagram. I don't like Twitter, but I am on there. And then the NASCAR thing, you're supposed to use Twitter a lot. And then on YouTube, I'll start to post some more videos this year and
cool.
Follow me on there. Yeah. So.
Cool. Awesome. Well, and as I've been doing with these YouTube videos, because I'm still getting used to the new channel and stuff, I'm going to get you to send me some short clip videos that I'm going to mix in to this conversation. So in between you and I on this video, I want to be able to put up a couple of skydives and maybe some racing and stuff. So
I had an epic crash last year, so I'll send you that footage.
Please. Yes.
Luckily, it wasn't to my fault. I got hit from behind, but it was still a pretty cool crash. Got us some good TV time.
Awesome. Well, racing is a lot like going out and watching the swoopers, right? You don't watch them to go around in circles. You watch them to see if they hit the wall.
They're gonna tumble sometimes.
Somebody's gonna chow the pond. Matt, man, I'll tell you what, I can't thank you enough for spending again the time with me. If the race goes well, actually, I should say when the race goes well, and this keeps continuing, we're gonna have to do a round 3 so you can catch us up on what you're up to.
Man, I'm going to fucking make the field for Daytona, for everybody out there watching, for the skydive world, for the racing world. And so we can come back on here and talk about what racing around Daytona at almost 200 miles an hour was like.
Awesome, brother. Can't wait, man. Thank you so much, brother. Take care.
Thanks so much, bro. See you, man.
And there you have it. Another episode of Lunatic Fringe Into the Void, brought to you as always by, and say it with me, fuck yeah, NZ Aerosports. Head to nzaerosports.com. By Pussfoot. That's right, head to pussfoot.com, the extreme sports collective, and check out everything they've got to offer. By summitparachutesystems.com. Jarrett Martin and the family cranking out amazing pilot rigs, as well as incredible rigging courses. And now joining the Lunatic team, it's the one and only Tony Suits. You know him, you love him. Head to tonysuit.com. Check out all the amazing standards, as well as the new incredible signature line they've got going on. And as for us, the Lunatic Fringe is now on YouTube. That's right, you're going to have the chance to put faces to the audio by heading to youtube.com and looking up the Lunatic Fringe podcast. It's easy. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check out all the amazing videos from the previous guests that we've had, as well as new and upcoming interviews on video. As always, I am the fucking pilot. Head to thefuckingpilot.net or theprincesspilot.com. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time around. Adios.